There are many status effects inside a Pokemon that range in viability, and in this video I'm going to rate them all using a tier list. They will be rated according to their viability in VGC, and viability is determined not only by the potency of the effect, but also by how easily the effect can be applied in battle. Let's get into it. Before we go ahead and start the video, I just want to go ahead and ask you to subscribe. We're getting close to that all-important 1,000, so if you could help me out, I would appreciate it. Thank you. In the F tier, we have some very niche effects that link to moves that are bad or can be done in a better way. These include Defense Curl, which doubles the damage of Rollout and Ice Ball, Minimized, which makes sure that you always get hit by certain moves and take double damage from those moves, and Stockpile, which allows you to use the move Spit Up or Swallow. Most of the other statuses in F tier can be achieved with abilities, moves, or items in much better fashion. Aqua Ring and Rooting, the status caused by Ingrain, can be achieved with leftovers. In the case of Rooting, this also doesn't trap you in. Identified allows you to ignore evasion and hit normal types with ghost type moves, ghost type with normal moves, and dark types with psychic moves. This can be done with Scrappy or Mind's Eye instead. Hitting dark with psychic moves can't be done with anything else, but most psychic types get some sort of fairy coverage, which is more deserving of the move slot. Nightmare causes sleeping Pokemon to take 1/8 of their health and damage every turn, which is already the effect of Darkrai ability. Taking aim causes the Pokemon's next move to bypass the accuracy check, which can already be achieved with no guard. Laser Focus causes the Pokemon's next move to always crit, which can be achieved with Meowscarada's Flower Trick or with Urshifu's signature moves. This one is mathematically bad because you are spending 2 turns to get a critical hit, which is only 1.5 times stronger than normal, so in most cases you are giving up a move slot to lose 25% of your damage. Tar Shot causes the affected Pokemon to take double damage from fire-type moves. The first main issue with Tar Shot is that it is bound to Colossal, and if you watch my video on good Pokemon with bad types, you would know that I never mentioned Tar Shot when talking about Colossal, because it's that irrelevant to its success. Second, there exists a much better way to buff fire-type damage: the Sun. Tar Shot might be okay as a secondary effect of a move that can combo with something else, but on its own, it's just a waste. Torment, which prevents you from using the same move twice in a row, is truly awful. In most cases, a tormented Pokemon could just protect every other turn and easily get around the effect. And if you use Torment to punish a choice-locked Pokemon, then you're just better off using Disable. Overall, Torment just doesn't provide you enough control over your opponent's moves to be viable. Moving on to D tier, we have effects that, while not being especially good, aren't as terrible as the ones before, or can't be replicated better by an item, move, or ability. First up, Illusion. Illusion is the effect caused by Zoroark's ability. It's an interesting effect because in theory it could work as an option to catch your opponent off guard and steal momentum, but in practice it has a number of obstacles that prevent it from being a good option. First and foremost is Team Preview. Your opponent is going to know that you have a Zoroark, so it can't catch them truly off guard. There are also many abilities like Intimidate, Psychic Surge, or Hadron Engine that will activate upon switching, and if you copy one of those abilities with Zoroark, your opponent is going to instantly know that you have Zoroark on the field. Until the arrival of Hisuian Zoroark, a single Fake Out could also stop the strategy dead in its tracks. Your opponent is going to know after 1 or 2 turns which Pokemon is Zoroark, and after that you're left with a frail Pokemon who isn't that fast nowadays and doesn't really have the offensive tools to heavily punish opponents for getting the call wrong. Smackdown, or Grounded, is an effect that causes flying or levitating Pokemon to become grounded, meaning they can be hit by ground-type moves and are affected by terrain. In a vacuum, this effect is pretty solid, but its downfall lies in its accessibility. The only common moves that cause this effects are Gravity and Smackdown. Gravity has been used on some Groudon teams, but it is fairly niche and is only used because it also lowers evasion in addition to grounding all targets. Smackdown is a 50 base power rock type move, and if you're going to run a rock move, you might as well run something that does damage like Rock Slide or Stone Edge. The main thing carrying this effect all the way up to D tier is Zygarde's signature move, 1000 Arrows, which is a 90 base power spread ground type attack that hits non-grounded Pokemon and grounds them. Distributing this move out to some of the top ground and rock types of today would move this effect up to at least C tier, but because it's locked behind a Pokemon that itself is kinda mid, it will remain in the D tier. Next up is Charge, which doubles the damage of the next electric type move a Pokemon uses. This unfortunately does include status moves like Thunder Wave, so you can waste the effect. Miraidon has shown us just how strong powerful electric moves can be, so the base effect here is certainly worthwhile. But before Gen 9, the means of getting this effect would have placed it in S tier, as it was only available with the move Charge, and if you're going to spend a turn to double the power of a move, you might as well just use the move twice. But with Wind Power and Electromorphosis in the game, allowing Kilowattrel and Bellibolt much easier access to the effect, I felt it didn't quite belong in the F tier anymore. Next up is the first hot take of the video, and I'm sure if you mostly play singles, this one's going to surprise you. Badly Poisoned, which is the poison effects produced by Toxic, is in the D tier. It might be strange to see it here, but let me explain. There aren't many options to inflict badly poisoned on a target, which means you need to dedicate part of your team to inflicting it, but there just isn't much reward. Toxic is best used to debilitate stall Pokemon that recover a lot, which don't thrive in VGC to begin with. Badly poisoned doesn't outdamage normal poisoned until turn 4, and most Pokemon in VGC will be lucky to stick around for 4 turns in the first place. It's just too much investment for too little reward. Cursed is a very unfortunate status because it's actually close to being good. It causes the target to lose 25% of its HP every turn, but the issue is that they just need to switch out to eliminate the effect. What ends up happening is that they switch out the next turn, and now you've traded 50% of your HP for 25% of theirs. If Cursed also prevents the Pokemon from switching out for a turn or two, it might see some more use on Focus-Ghost types, but for now it will remain bad. In C tier, we have some effects that are not great, but are viable enough to carve out a niche on some teams. First up is Getting Pumped. A Pokemon getting pumped raises their crit rate by 2 stages, which isn't a bad effect at all. But given that crit damage is only 1.5 times, most players will opt for Choice Band or Choice Specs, which guarantees the 1.5 times boost and doesn't require a turn to set up. There will always be someone who uses Focus Energy Super Lux sets or tries out something with Dragon Cheer, but the strategies either require too much investment or are just inconsistent. This might be the one people disagree with the most. Perish Song is C tier. And look, I get it. We've both seen what Perish Song can do when used by the right player. But let's be honest with ourselves, that player is not me and it's not you either. Also, without Shadow Tag, the effect is pretty easy to counter. This effect does have some pretty impressive wins. It fits the criterion of carving out a niche for itself, so it fits squarely in the C tier. Next is Bound, which is the escape, prevention, and damaging effect of moves like Sand Tomb or Infestation. This is different from Can Escape, which we'll talk about later. Preventing a switch is a very powerful effect, but the inconsistency of these moves hinders the effect a decent amount. Most of them are not 100% accurate, which is not a good thing to have for your status effect. The issue is that it allows the opponent time to set up one of their Pokemon, and at that point, why would they even want to switch anyway? Transform is an effect that gets better the more powerful the format is. The main allure of Transform is that it allows you to get a slightly worse version of a restricted on your team. Its stat copying property also allows you to reverse a sweep onto your opponent. It saw a lot of use back in Sword and Shield when Zacian was at its peak, because not only would it copy the attack boost from the opposing Intrepid Sword, it would also get another boost from Intrepid Sword upon transforming. The main issue is that you need to dedicate a Scarf to this Pokemon or you're going to be risking a lot of speed ties, which takes away the Scarf from valuable Pokemon like Kyogre, Urshifu, or Landorus. Salt Cure is a pretty solid condition. It's basically a poison that does extra damage to 2 of the best types in the game, Steel and Water. The main problem with Salt Cure is that it is tied to Garganacl, who isn't a bad Pokemon, but is fundamentally built for Stall, and VGC is a format that is not good for Stall. If Salt Cure were able to be applied as a secondary effect of a stronger Rock-type move and were given to Tyranitar, then it would probably do a lot better in VGC, but for now it will remain one of those things that is great in singles but bad in doubles. Lastly, for C tier, we're going to talk about Leech Seed. In early Regulation I, Leech Seed Calyrex Ice Rider became very meta and won multiple regionals. Leech Seed is very good on Pokemon that are bulky, and the chip damage helps pick up KOs that players might have built their Pokemon to survive. Grass types are unfortunately immune to this effect, and it is also a more stall-oriented strategy, which has been stated multiple times, are not great inside of VGC. Most of the time, Leech Seed is not viable due to the fast pace of VGC, but when the time is right, it can make a bulky Pokemon next to impossible to break through. Moving on to B tier, we have effects that are strong on their own and have a decent ease of access and being set up, but aren't quite as influential as those in A tier, or they're effects that are very strong but aren't quite as easy to get off as players might want them to be. Starting off in B tier, we have Can't Escape, most famously caused by Shadow Tag and Mean Look, which causes Pokemon to be unable to escape. It might seem weird to have it in a tier above Bound, which does this but also causes some chip damage, and that's entirely because of Shadow Tag. Shadow Tag and Arena Trap affect both opposing Pokemon and do not require a setup turn. This makes the effect incredibly more potent, and the only thing holding it back from being in A or S tier is the limited user pool. Only 5 Pokemon have had one of these abilities, and the only good ones are Gothitelle and Mega Gengar. If you widen the availability of Shadow Tag out to even mid-restricted Pokemon like Dialga or Palkia, they would instantly become top tier, and so would this effect. Next up, we have Poison. Poisoned is the worst of the non-volatile status conditions, except for its variant, Badly Poisoned. The others affect Pokemon in such a way as to shift board state significantly, and Poison just does a little bit of damage each turn. Most teams won't have a dedicated poisoning move, but it's not uncommon for a team to have moves that poison as a secondary effect. Poison is best used as a little extra bonus damage, as a little treat for a lucky Sludge Bomb, and not as a main option for dealing damage. In this regard, It's actually pretty good at what it does, but it's by no means going to be the best status condition in the game anytime soon. Substitute not only increases your Pokemon's bulk by requiring at least 2 hits to KO your Pokemon, but it also makes them immune to many status moves. If you get a Substitute off, you essentially are giving yourself a free turn to set up, or get off a powerful move from a frail attacker that would otherwise be subjected to KO by a priority move. Substitute is fairly difficult to actually set up, as your opponent can just attack the turn you set it up and break it, and it can only be set up if you're above 25% HP, so Focus Sash Mons won't have easy access. If you put Substitute on your team, you probably won't be able to get one up every game, but with smart positioning, you can use the sub and make a victory where you otherwise would have been defeated. Next up we have Disable, which is a good effect because how most Pokemon build their moveset. They tend to have one move that is the strongest, and maybe some coverage options to help with specific matchups. Disable can eliminate that strongest move and allow you time to KO the Pokemon or set up your positioning and speed control and handle it before it comes back online. Disable is particularly effective on choice item Pokemon as they will be forced to switch out or struggle. But this is all assuming that you can survive that strongest move. One of the biggest downsides of Disable is that you can't actually use it until your opponent has gotten a chance to use a move, so you may already be behind by the time you get a chance to use it. Next up we have Ability Suppression, which is the effect caused by Gastro Acid, Core Enforcer, and Neutralizing Gas. Ability Suppression is extremely strong, as there are so many abilities in Scarlet and Violet VGC that have warped metagames around themselves. This effect is only this high because of the aforementioned Neutralizing Gas, which allows teams to easily access Ability Suppression. The main issues with Neutralizing Gas is that 1, Weezing is not that incredible of a Pokemon without it, and 2, your own Pokemon will have their abilities removed. Many players who use Neutralizing Gas build their teams with this in mind, selecting Pokemon that are normally hindered by their ability, don't rely on their ability, or are immune to the effect either by having a specific ability that is exempted from this effect, or the ability shield. Ability Suppression is an effect that isn't incredibly strong in the metagame because of the otherwise mid Pokemon that get access to it, but can easily force bad matchups against teams that are particularly ability reliant, which is quite a lot of them. Next up we have our last effect for B tier, Imprisoning, which is the effect that prevents any opposing Pokemon from using any moves that the imprisoning Pokemon knows. This effect is mostly used to stop Trick Room, and in that regard, it is very effective, as it not only denies Trick Room, but it can also deny Protect, which is incredibly important in doubles. When there is a particularly dominant meta option, like Zacian back in Gen 8, Imprison can be used as a mean to disable their strongest move and really turn the tide of battle. Imprison can turn a losing matchup into a very favorable matchup, and in the era of Open Team Sheet it has never been better. Unfortunately for Imprison, you aren't always going to run into a team that has the moves you want to deny. And in those cases, you are stuck with a useless move which might have been better filled by Helping Hand, Protect, or another coverage move. In the A tier, we have effects that are fairly common to see on teams and are strong enough to almost always change the outcome of a turn. Speed Order is so crucial in doubles, and Paralysis does a good job of turning it in your favor while also giving a 25% chance to just stop a Pokemon dead in their tracks. Pokemon that might have swept your team ordinarily can easily be dealt with after its speed is halved. Even if they have a way to deal with the speed drop, a full para on the right turn can easily win you a game or give you a huge advantage. The main thing holding it back is that Thunder Wave is only 90% accurate, and electric types are immune to being paralyzed, which, before this was the case, this move was being spammed all the time by Thundurus, so the nerf is definitely a good thing. Burn is the most unique out of the non-volatile statuses, because it doesn't actually help against special attackers, and it is quite literally the worst non-volatile status against special attackers. But it is so detrimental to physical attackers that it earns its place in A tier. Burning a physical attacker can make them a non-threat for the rest of the game, which is especially strong given that many great Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet are physical. It is also the only way to reduce the damage of Urshifu aside from using Wo-Chien, who is less than viable, let's say. The main things holding Burn back are its inability to affect special attackers and Fire-type having an immunity. Burn is actually a small part of the reason that physical attackers do like to run Terra Fire. Burn does an excellent job of checking physical attackers while also feeling far more fair than some of its fellow statuses. Encore is my favorite status in the game. What Encore excels at is punishing players for going for moves that aren't strong attacking moves such as Tailwind, Protect, or Fake Out. Getting locked into one of these moves essentially means the Pokemon is forced to switch and can be a huge loss of momentum in the game. Encore can also cause a Pokemon to be stuck using a move in suboptimal conditions, like an unfavorable type matchup or bad weather. In the right circumstances, Encore does a great job at punishing your opponent for not prioritizing their macro game. If they don't think ahead and use a move that can easily be Encore locked, then they are going to lose a ton of momentum in the game. Taunt is extremely potent, because it can shut down almost every way a Pokemon can be supported. Trick Room, Thunder Wave, Tailwind, Follow Me, and any other status moves like it are completely eliminated from your opponent's move pool, and now they're stuck trying to get a Whimsicott that can only click Moonblast to beat a Terra Fire Koraidon. Next we have Center of Attention, which is the effect that causes redirection. It is so strong in doubles because it allows a bulky support Pokemon to take hits in place of a frail sweeper while they set up or pick up KOs. It also keeps fellow supporting Pokemon safe to set up important things like Trick Room or Tailwind. Redirection is great, and will continue to be so long as the format is doubles. Lastly, in A tier, we have a status condition that might seem like it belongs in S tier, but let me explain. We all know how strong Freeze is. We've all lost games to Freeze, or maybe even a Nuzlocke to Freeze. The effect is very powerful, and honestly does not have a place in competitive Pokemon in my opinion. The reason that it is not S tier is because there is thankfully no way to easily set up Freeze. There is no dedicated status move to inflict Freeze, and every move that can inflict it has a pretty low chance to do so. If there was a move that could apply it fairly reliably, it would easily be the best status, and competitive Pokemon would suffer for it. Now let's talk about our single status in S tier. This one is so strong that Game Freak needs to rework it, or at the very least rebalance it. Sleep. Simply just the strongest. The most common move used to inflict sleep is Spore, which is intentionally given to slow Pokemon because guaranteed sleep is so meta-defining that a fast Pokemon with access to Spore might break the game. Because Spore is 100 accuracy, and sleep always guarantees at least one turn, you always get as much as you invest putting a Pokemon to sleep, and that's just in the worst case. Most of the time, you'll get 1 to 2 turns more than you invested, and begin to get so far ahead in the game that your opponent can't catch up. The main thing holding sleep back is that its only consistent delivery comes from Spore, a powder move, so grass types are immune and safety goggles can block it. In fact, one of the reasons that grass types like Rillaboom and Ogerpon who do not get Spore are so good is that they are immune to Spore. Many teams will also run safety goggles or Terra Grass just to get around Spore, which is a testament to just how good it is. Sleep's powerful effect and ease of application make it quite comfortably the strongest status effect in the game. And that's it. Thank you very much for making it to this point. This is my longest video so far, and I hope you appreciate the effort that went into it. By the time this comes out, I should have unlocked YouTube memberships. I don't have access to them at the time of recording this, so I can't really tell you many details about how that works, but I would very much appreciate it if you would consider becoming a channel member. It would really help me out a lot. That being said, thank you very much for watching, good luck in future games, and have a good one.